Hi, I'm Suret, and this video is going to be mostly about dairy. So if you're currently struggling with sensitivities in specific dairy, then this is the video to watch. So when we speak about dairy, then mostly we think of lactose if we think of the intolerance. Lactose is present in most commercially available dairy products. But how and what if we could remove the lactose, which causes the intolerance, and then still enjoy dairy products? But how do we remove the lactose? We can ferment a dairy product, which will then remove the lactose. Let me give you an example of fermented products. So we think of milk as a dairy product. If we speak of fermented dairy products, then we think of yogurt, hopefully homemade 24-hour fermented yogurt, or we could think of sour cream, we could think of kefir, or we could think of natural cheeses. So that's all the things that started at milk, but we moved it into a fermentation process, and now we have a different product. What removes the lactose? In the process of fermentation, the fermenting bacteria will consume the lactose. And the bacteria, as consuming the lactose goes out of the dairy. If that is too scientific for you, the golden nugget is still, if you'd use a fermented dairy product, it will most probably be way easier to digest and not cause the intolerances of a non-fermented dairy product. So today, I'm going to talk to you about yogurt specifically and how you could make yogurt at home with a yogurt maker or with your Instapot. If you ferment a dairy product, then the fermenting bacteria, as it eats up the lactose, it will also produce lactic acid. The lactic acid has a healing and a soothing effect on your gut lining. Before you introduce any new food groups to your baby, remember to do the sensitivity test. So if you're not sure how your baby is tolerating any dairy at the moment, you can use the dairy in the process, in the form that you're going to give it to the baby, and put it on the inside of the wrist and see if there is any allergic reactions. And then as you see there's no reactions, then you continue increasing the amount. So let's start the yogurt making process. I'm going to do two different methods today, starting with the unpasteurized milks. So the products that I've got is South African products, and my unpasteurized milk do I buy from Irene Dairy Farm in Pretoria. Whenever you buy unpasteurized milk, it is extremely important to buy it from a trusted source. If it's a good quality unpasteurized milk, then we get some extra good bacteria, which is what we want, but you don't buy from dodgy places, okay? And I buy the 3-liter one for the yogurt making process. And then as my yogurt starter, I'm going to use a cup of yogurt of my previous batch. So when you start and you don't have a previous batch, then just try and buy the best quality, most organic, cleanest yogurt, hopefully from pasture-fed cows that you can find. Yogurt process number 1 is going to be my already homemade yogurt, a cup, and then a 3-liter yogurt. The second process that I'm going to show you is a store-bought full cream fresh milk from Woolies, also the 3 liters, and then I also bought full cream plain yogurt from Woolies. My focus is always to use the best quality that I can find, knowing that it's good quality. Okay. So for today, just to be sure that there's no other bacteria going to interfere, I boiled some water, and I'm just going to rinse the pot with the boiled water, quite disinfected, and then I'm going to use a whisk in the process. So I'm also putting the whisk through the boiled water just to make sure that I disinfect the whisk. Proper cooking video for you. This is so easy, you'll be surprised. So I'm putting just a little bit of milk in the pot. You can see. Now I'm taking my milk starter, or my yogurt starter. So I'm going to put that into the milk. And then I'm just going to whisk it slightly to make sure that it's properly mixed. And then from there, I'm going to put the rest of the milk in the pot. So then I just give it one last stir to make sure I don't over stir it, just one last stir to make sure it's ready. Now I'm going to take this mixture and put it inside the Instant Pot. From there, I'm putting on the lid. So it's going to ferment at a steady temperature in the pot. From there, I'm going to remove it out of the pot and I'm going to put it in the fridge. Okay, so I'm done with the first batch of yogurt, which was when I used the unpasteurized milk with my already homemade yogurt as a starter. So let me quickly show you. I let it ferment in the Instant Pot. This round I did 14 hours. When you do it yourself, you could do anything from 12 to 24 hours. The only thing that you have to remember is that we want fermented dairy for the baby or for yourself as a first time as introduction to dairy. So you can determine the amount of time that you want to ferment. If you've got a baby that's starting with solids newly, I would recommend you go the longer one, the 24 hours. But as time progresses and you're more comfortable with the dairy, you can do less and less. For this round, I did a 14-hour ferment. That's just the time that was permitted. And also remember to time your timing when you, to time it or plan it when you start the fermentation. So in my case, I did not plan it. I put it in at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So 12 hours would have been 2 o'clock in the morning. And then I had to make it 14 hours at 4. So that's just the way I planned it. So the way it came out, I started with 3 liters of milk and 1 cup of homemade yogurt. So I got 3 liters of yogurt in the end. I just put it in jars. So you'll see this one is quite liquidy and runny. That's how it came out because the yogurt starter was liquidy and runny. So the type of yogurt that you start with will determine the consistency of the yogurt at the end. I will show at the end of this video a way that you can use to make it thicker or a more clumpier consistency, but this is what it looks like. So for the next round, I'm going to use pasteurized milk. In South Africa, I'm buying 3 liters of full cream fresh milk from Woolworths. And then I just try to let the yogurt match that. And I bought a full cream plain yogurt. Very important to buy a plain yogurt. I just took the full fat product and plain, no extra things. So same as the previous round, I'm going to take my 3 liters of milk, put it in the Instant Pot. And then again, remember, as with the first round, you want to sterilize your pot a little bit. So I just used boiling water, rinsed it out with boiling water, no soap. This was after I already put it in the dishwasher. So in the case of this pot, I washed it by hand to make sure there's no extra pieces on the pot. Then I put it in the dishwasher to disinfect it. And then after that, just to be sure, I rinsed it with boiled water. Okay, so I just put a slight little bit of milk in the pot. Now I'm going to take only 1 cup of yogurt. So this is a much thicker yogurt than the previous starter. So the consistency of this yogurt at the end will be thicker. Then I'm going to take a whisk. So the reason I'm so disinfecty is because we don't want any extra bacteria to influence the yogurt making process. We only want to work with the bacteria that's already in the milk and the yogurt. So I'm going to put the full cup of yogurt in this pot. So while I'm busy with the pasteurized batch, it's absolutely your own choice if you want to use pasteurized dairy products or non-pasteurized or unpasteurized dairy products. That's up to you. When you use the pasteurized, there's just a little bit of less bacteria. If you use unpasteurized products, make sure that it's from a trusted source. The reason why we pasteurize dairy products is to make sure that it's safe to consume. So if it's not pasteurized, you have to make sure it's from a trusted source. So I put in the 1 cup of yogurt and the milk. I'm just stirring it to make sure there's no clumps in the end of the process. And now I'm adding the 3 liters of extra milk. And also on this note, you might be watching this video and think you know a different recipe or you want to use a different recipe. You can find lots of different ways to make yogurt, especially in the Instant Pot on YouTube. So I'm just showing you my version of it, but you can find all kinds of different versions. Okay, so I'm slightly stirring it, not too much. Now, same as yesterday, I'm going to take this batch, put it inside the Instant Pot. Take my lid. You can use your Instant Pot lid, but just always make sure that this part, the rubber part inside, is clean. The smell of this could be quite strong and the yogurt will pick up on that smell. Alternatively, I'll show you an alternative now. So I'm putting on the yogurt lid, pressing the yogurt button, and I'm setting this one on 12 hours because then it's easy for tonight and it will start. So if you don't want to use, or you can use the Instant Pot lid, but you can also use a normal glass lid that fits on the Instant Pot. So when you buy the Instant Pot, I would recommend that you look at buying the extra inner pot if you're going to use the Instant Pot a lot. And you can also buy an Instant Pot lid, which means in this case of the yogurt, I don't have to use the sealing lid. I can just use the normal glass lid. There's many ways to make yogurt. The reason why we use an Instant Pot or device to make yogurt is because of the stable temperature. You can also make it on the stove, on a pot. In this case, in modern day and age, I'm trying to make it as easy as possible for us, and that's why we're using controlled temperature for the fermentation. I have just removed the pasteurized milk and yogurt starter that I've put in the Instant Pot from the fridge. So this round I've put in the Instant Pot for only 12 hours and then I put it in the fridge for 12 hours without stirring it. You will see the consistency of this starter or this yogurt is much thicker because of the yogurt that I used as a starter. So see how thick this one is in comparison to the first one that I made, which is a much thinner consistency. You can also stir it quite well. So I'm going to use a cheesecloth and then I'm going to put my yogurt or strain it through the cheesecloth. So I just put a glass bowl and then I put the cheesecloth on top of it. And now I'm going to put the very thin yogurt on the cheesecloth and let it strain through here. And then we get a thicker yogurt. I've strained my yogurt, the homemade batch that I made, for about 10 to 15 minutes now, and the consistency is already much thicker. You'll be able to see here. It's not as runny as this one here. What happens after you've strained it? So you could strain the yogurt for up to 8 to 24 hours. You decide how long you want to strain it, because that determines the thickness of the yogurt. So that's all up to you. Once you've strained the yogurt, depending on the time you chose, you will get this on the other side of the cheesecloth. And this is what we call whey water. Very nutritious. So you can either just discard it and not use it, or you can use it in your smoothies. You can use it in any baking that you want to do. You can even put it in your plants. You can literally just Google household use for whey water. Thank you for watching my video. If you need more guidance on starting solids with your baby, or you need guidance on your deep health journey, or to restore your deep core as a mom after giving birth, then visit my website www.surettealive.com.